Hello everyone, Sandy here, Graphic 45 Brand Ambassador. I'm going to share with you how to make, in this tutorial, a little folio type album. I'm going to be using the Deluxe Collector's Edition Little Darlings. Back in December I made this album, a cat album, using the Raining Cats and Dogs, and so I didn't do a tutorial back then, but I've had many ask, and so I'm going to recreate this exact same little album, but I'm using the Little Darlings to make a baby album. It will have the same flaps and photo mats as you see here in this Raining Cats and Dogs album, and it will have the ribbon tie closure. Now I'm going to start out on mine. I'm going to work with the Ivory Artisan cardstock. You start out with 2 sheets of the 12 by 12, and I will be using another sheet or 2 later on for the photo mats, but at first you are going to need the 2 12 by 12 ivory cardstock, and then I will also use the 12 by 12 Little Darlings Deluxe Collector's Edition. I'm using my paper trimmer to cut down the 2 12 by 12 pieces of ivory cardstock into a 6-inch by 12-inch pieces. So you'll have 4 6-inch by 12-inch. So what you're doing is just cutting your 12-inch on one side in half at the 6-inch mark so that you have 4 pieces. Take one of your 6-inch by 12-inch pieces and put it back in your trimmer and cut it down 5 inches. You want a 5-inch by 6-inch piece. So on the 12-inch length, cut that down to 5 inches. And then take the remaining piece and cut 2 pieces that are 1 inch wide. So these will be little hinges. So you cut 2 1 inch wide, so they'll be 1 inches by 6 inches long. And set the other leftover piece of cardstock aside. I'm done with my trimmer for now, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab my scoreboard so that we can score all our pieces. First I'm going to take one of the 6-inch by 12-inch pieces. I'm going to put the 12-inch in at the top of the scoreboard, and I'm going to score one of the 6-inch by 12-inch pieces on the 12-inch side at 2 3/4 and 3 inches. Turn and score on the other end at 2 3/4 and 3 inches. This is creating the little gussets, the sides of our little folio mini album. Set that aside. Take another 6-inch by 12-inch piece, put the 12 inches at the top, and score on the 12-inch side at 3 inches. Turn it and score the other end at 3 inches. Take your last remaining 6-inch by 12-inch piece and make sure you put the 12-inch at the top, and you're going to score this one at 3 inches. Turn it and score it 3 inches again. So you have two of your 6-inch by 12-inch pieces that are scored exactly the same. Now take your little 1-inch wide, put the 1 inch at the top, and you're going to score it right in half at 1/2 inch. So this is creating a little hinge. So score it at 1/2 inch and do the same with the remaining 1 inch wide piece. So these are 1 inch by 6 inches long. Score the 1 inch side at 1/2 inch. Set the scoreboard aside, and now we're ready to work on our pieces. Now the remaining 6-inch by 5-inch piece is going to be 6 inches tall. This is going to be the closure, so we're going to set that aside for now. And let's take our scored pieces in a bone folder, and we're going to fold and burnish the fold lines so that we get the little 1/4 inch gusset for our album. So you work with it and make sure score lines are burnished well, and then you will have a little 1/4 inch space there on each side. This is the closure piece. This is going to attach. It is not scored. The 6-inch by 5-inch is going to glue over the left flap piece that we just scored, burnished, and it will leave this little space on the right hand side. Before attaching the closure piece, or rather the front piece of the album, decide if you want to have one edge decorative punched. I did decide to punch mine, and I used a scallop punch. And now I'm ready to just attach this to the flap on the left hand side. So I'm going to put glue just on the flap, and I am using the Art Glitter Designer glue, so I'm going to lay this down flat so I can get it on straight. And I've got to take my pen and unclog the little nozzle here and apply glue along the edges, along the fold, not over the fold line, and then some glue in the center to secure it down. And then when you're attaching it, make sure to line it up so that it's not over the fold line, but is lined up top and bottom. So I like to use glue because it gives me a little bit of time to straighten everything up if I need to make sure everything is fit right. And if it's off just a little bit, you can trim that off at the top. So I'm burnishing it down and wiping off excess glue. And I decided it wasn't on quite as straight as I wanted it to, so that's the good thing about glue. I was able to lift it up and reposition it again. Make sure that it's all lined up. So whichever way works best for you, with it folded up or laying flat. I'm thinking that for me, attaching the little flap down onto the piece makes it a little bit straighter. So now I'm ready to burnish it and make sure that it's stuck down good. And that's the cover flap of our little album. You see you have the 1/4 inch little spaces, gussets on both sides. Before assembling the pages on the inside of the album, I'm going to go ahead and attach my ribbon to the cover. So turn it so that the back of your cover is facing up. First I'm just measuring, make sure that I have enough ribbon cut. So it's cut about 1 yard of ribbon. I'm using seam binding ribbon in ivory color. And you want to attach it to the back. So I've just placed it down and holding it down on the back where I'm just eyeballing it. I've got it centered, and I'm going to take some score tape and I'm just going to attach it down on the back side. Let me grab my tape right quick Didn't have it handy, so I've got to grab it. So I've tore off some score tape, and I'm just going to attach it down in different spots to keep it in place until I'm ready to add the patterned paper. And you want to make it so that the tie will be to the right side of your cover. So I'm bringing it around the front now. And I'm going to position that, get it straight. And I'm also going to put down some score tape on the front because this will also be covered with patterned paper. I was just checking over my notes from my last album and deciding that yes, I did want to put the tape down on the front to hold it in place on the front. So this is the cover, and it will tie with ribbon on the right side. And now we're ready to put in our flap pages. Next, take the two remaining 12-inch long cardstock sections and fold and burnish the fold lines. You have two on each one. These are the single score lines, and you want to burnish those up so that you have really good folds on them. These are creating flaps that meet together, so you burnish them the same direction so that they go towards each other. And I like to turn them over and burnish the back side as well, so make sure that they have a good fold line. Take the two 1-inch hinges and fold and burnish the score line in half so that you have a score line in the center of each one. Burnish that well. These are the hinges. And then take one of your flap sections, and I'm just checking the placement of where it needs to go. So I have the left side, and on the back of the left side I'm going to attach the hinge. So apply glue to just one section of the hinge. You can use score tape if you like. I prefer to use the glue, so I'm applying the glue just on a 1/2-inch section. And now I'm going to attach the fold line of the hinge along the fold line on the back side where the left flap is. So just match those up right along the fold line and burnish and wipe off any excess glue. Now apply glue to the remaining hinge section. I'm just checking to make sure that it's going to go in where I want it to go. So I'm looking at it to make sure of the placement. I know it may be a little hard to see. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the hinge to the other flap section. So I'm just applying the glue to the 1/2-inch section, and I'm going to turn this over, and this one is going to go onto the back side of the right flap, and again line up the fold line with the fold line of the flap, and make sure you get that on straight. And I'm wiping off the excess glue if you have any that comes out. So I'm going to look at this. You do have your double score lines for the gusset. And you want your hinges to attach in the center. So I'm double checking by looking at my original album And I'm going to open up these hinges and fold them back so that the hinge is attached to the inside center section. So you want to put it right along the fold line that goes towards the center of the album so that you have your 1/4 inch space. So you do not want to put this over or between the two score lines. You want to make sure that stays free. You want your 1/4 inch gusset to be free with nothing glued to it. So I'm burnishing this down again, and I'm going to apply glue just to that 1/2 inch section of the hinge. Flip this over, and I'm going to attach the fold of the hinge right along the score line, but not over the score line. So line it up top to bottom. So you'll have it attached to the center with your 1/4 inch gusset clear so that everything folds up correctly. And I'm burnishing that hinge on the center section there. So right in there, you can see where the hinge attaches there. And do the same for the one on the left. So I'm making sure that my hinge is folded back, burnishing in that really well. Applying glue to the back of that hinge. And then attaching the hinge with the fold line of the hinge along the score line towards the center of the album, leaving your 1/4 inch space clear with nothing attached to it. Burnish. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to burnish the seam line there of the hinge. And the album is assembled. So it folds up. You've got two flaps that fold in the center, then the main flaps. And just double check your fold lines. If you have to reburnish any to make sure everything's straight, go ahead and make any adjustments that you need to make now. And I do need to just re-score on the bottom here. And make sure that it fits in good. I have pre-cut 3 pieces of paper, pattern paper from the Little Darlings paper collection to pattern the outside of the album. All 3 pieces are 5 7/8 inches tall. You need one that is 4 3/8 inches wide, one piece at 2 5/8 inches wide, and one piece at 5 7/8 inches wide, which will go on the back. So I've pre-cut these, and I'm taking my distress ink pen, distress marker, in a brown color, and I'm just inking the edges, the cut edges. I don't necessarily want ink on the front side of my paper, so I like to use the pens to just lightly ink the cut edges. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this next section of the video where I am gluing it down. I am going to use the art glitter glue. Glue these pieces down over the ribbon. Make sure you pull the score tape backing on if you use score tape to hold your ribbon down. And so I'm going to attach all 3 of these pieces onto the cover of the album. You will notice that you need to make sure that the ribbon is left free and not glued down so that it can tie on the right side. And there is no pattern paper on the little 1/4 inch gussets. So this is the front. And so we're ready to start on the inside. I've selected the paper that I want to use for the first section of my album and the back side of the flaps. So I'm going to cut these. I've measured these. These are also 5 7/8 inches tall, so I'm just cutting the 5 7/8 inch height. For the inside cover, the back side of the inside cover, you need it 4 3/8. For the full size page, you need 5 7/8 inch wide. And on the right flap on the inside, you need that to also be, I believe, 5 7/8 inches tall by 2 5/8 inches wide. So I'm cutting all these papers, and then I'm going to also ink the edges, and then I will be gluing these down. So this will be the back side of the flap. When it's open, it'll be on the left, and then the flap on the right on the inside piece. And you don't put paper over the little 1/4 inch gussets on the inside. So that I'm going to cut this piece. I'm looking at my notes to make sure it is going to be yeah, 2 5/8 inches wide by 5 7/8 tall also. So I'm just double checking my measurements to make sure that it fits. And you always want to check your measurements instead of just following along with what I say, so that you're not wasting any paper. So you do want to make sure that you're cutting it out where you need it to be to fit in your book. So that's going to go there, so that when you open this up, it's all going to be the same pattern paper. I think it needs to be just a little smidge narrower, so I'm going to cut a little bit off the edge here. Okay, so that fits better. And again, I'm going to speed up the video for this section, so I'm going to cut the center paper, which is a full 5 7/8 inch wide, and then I'm going to ink the edges and glue these down. I have the first section pattern, and I'm opening it up to get ready to decide on the papers for the next sections. I know this may be hard to see, but I've opened the left section back so that you see the back side of it that's already been patterned. The flap on the right, that's the back side open to the right. So I decided to, for the next section's main piece that you see when you open this up, to use the same pattern paper. So this one is also cut 5 7/8 inches tall by 5 7/8 inches wide. So I'm gluing this down on the solid piece, the what I call a full page. So I'm just gluing that down right there. So this is the side where the flaps are underneath. So just line that up and then burnish that down. Wipe off any excess glue. And again, I'm using the Art Glitter glue. It dries clear. It is my favorite glue to use when assembling albums and patterning pages. So we have that. So if you fold this back now, you will see that the inside flat pieces are not covered yet. So we have one more full section in the center. We have the flaps, and then we have full sections inside the flaps. I've gone ahead and selected the pattern paper for the full page in the center and for each flaps on the front side, and I've decided to do blue on the left and pink on the right with the baby words in the center. So I have inked the edges already, and I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and attach these down. So you covered the two flaps on the right, the two flaps on the left, and the center section, the full page on the center. I have the sections patterned here. So if you fold it up, you'll see this pattern shows this way. Then you open up the main sections. You have the pink on the right, blue on the left, and now we're ready to pattern the inside sections of the flaps. I'm showing you again what I've patterned so far, the main sections, and then open it up, the front of the flaps and the center section. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to pattern the left inside section next. I'm going to do this also in blue. I've pre-cut the papers and I've inked the edges. These are cut the same size as the ones on the front. So I'm just going to glue these down, and then I chose the paper for the center section, and I'm going to speed this up. On the right side I will use the pink stripe for the inside of the flaps and the same paper on the center section for the full page. Remember to burnish your pattern paper once you glue it down so that it lays down smooth, and wipe off any excess glue. So I have these sections completely patterned now. Everything is patterned and ready to start adding the photo mats, which makes this album a little bit different and unique. So we're going to cut those next. So let's set this aside. And I'm going to look at the original album to show you how you have photo mats on the front and back of each flap with magnets. So you're going to need your large snap magnets if you want these to be attached with magnets. So let's get our paper. You will need 2 more sheets of the 12 by 12 ivory cardstock to cut your photo mats, and you need to cut 8 4 by 4, and then we're also going to cut out of pattern paper 8 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and then you will need 8 more out of the ivory cardstock that are 3 3/8 by 3 3/8. So these are all going to be layered up. I'm using the pink check and the blue check. So I'm inking the edges, and then we're going to assemble these photo mats. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and then I'll show you how to assemble the photo mats and attach them into the album. Before attaching the photo mats, I decided to add a little scalloped paper trim to the flaps on one side. This is optional, so I'm just going to glue mine like here on the right flap edge on the pink side, and then I'll also do one on the blue. So I'm just using a little bit of glue. I punch these with my scallop border punch. You could use any punch that you might have, or you could use some lace if you'd rather put some lace, flat lace down. So I'm just going to line this up and attach it there right on the right flap, and then I'm also going to attach that to the left side. See, the mat will attach here with the lace on the right side. Just slide this over, and I'm looking to make sure I'm putting it the right direction. So the mat's going to go there. So I'm going to put this on the left flap, kind of mirrored to the one on the right. So we'll use some glue. This is just an extra little decorative piece that you can add. I did not have this in the original cat album. This is something that, it's optional if you want to add little bits of trim. You just want to make sure you keep it flat because this album does not have a lot of gusset space, so you want to make sure you keep it flat. Needed just a little bit more glue there. And it kind of sticks up just a little bit. I didn't have it cut quite right, so I just trimmed a tiny little bit off the top with my scissors. Now we're ready to put in our photo mats, and I'm going to start working on the left side, on the blue side, with the flaps closed, and I'm just taking a pencil and getting a mark on the mat where I want the glue to go. So you're just going to add glue on this first one to the left side of the mat, not the entire mat, because it sticks over the flap, and so you don't want any glue on that on the right side. So I'm getting my placement with a light pencil mark, and I'm working on the largest cardstock ivory photo mat to mark the placements for where I want to put the glue. So I'm going to put the glue right there to the left from the pencil mark, just to the left, and then I will center this onto the flap, so it will look like it's attached to both of them, but it's only going to be attached on the left side. So you didn't see me adding the glue because I had it in up close to me, but the glue is just on the left side of that mat, and you attach the big one down, and I'm just eyeballing it right now and kind of centering it and getting the placement where I want it. So just move it if you need to and burnish it down, and see when I flip it up there's no glue on the back side of that mat. So that's the first piece, that's the large one. And now we're going to add a magnet to the back of that. So I was getting the magnets out of the packaging, and I'm placing one there on the left side of the opened mat, and then I attached an opposing one, peel the backing off and let it stick down to the mat on the flap, I'm sorry. Let it stick down to the flap on the right side. So you see you have a magnet on the left side on the back of the photo mat and a magnet on the flap front on the right side. So I'm taking another large photo mat that I've pre-cut out of ivory cardstock, and I'm applying glue to the entire piece of this, and you attach it and make sure you add it straight to the edges, left side edges of the mat that's on the front, and then burnish that down so that seals in the magnet, and then you have your photo mat on both sides attached to that front piece. So I'm doing some pencil marks again so that I can get my placement correct for the next mat. So open up the left flap with the mat that's attached. And I made a mistake and added glue to the entire piece here. You're not supposed to do that, just to the right side. So I'm going to have to lift that up and wipe the glue off. So I'm realizing that I don't need glue on the entire piece. So I'm wiping that up. That's the good thing about the glue. It's easy to clean off. So I'm attaching it to where I put my pencil marks on the pattern paper of the flap, and I'm lifting it up. And now I will attach another large mat to the back side of this one. So this makes it really sturdy. You can use these to open up the flaps. These are double matted, so you have two large ones, front and back, and then we're going to add our pattern paper and our last little mat to each one of these. So when it closes up, it covers the mat that's underneath. I'm going to go ahead and add the pattern paper that I pre-cut for the photo mats. So again, I'm just applying glue to the back side of the pattern paper, and I'm putting the pink check on the left side with the blue stripe, and I'm just centering it, getting some white margin or ivory margin all the way around it, and then I will glue the actual photo mat into the center of this. Now if you prefer to use bigger pictures, you don't have to do the pattern paper and the smaller mat. It's a personal choice, just whatever you want to add into your book. So I'm going to do this on the front here, and then I will also do it on the inside when I open up the flap, and then to the mat on the right and the inside of that flap. I'm going to add in the photo mats to the right side the exact same way that I did for the left side, except that you're attaching the first one to the left side of the left flap and adding them in with the magnets. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because you do it exactly the same way. The larger mat and on the front and the back of each flap, and then you add in the pattern paper and the smaller mats. For the inside full page, the center one in the very center between the two sections that are on the right and left, I cut out of the ivory cardstock a one piece that's 5 7/8 inches wide by 3 inches tall, and I did a scallop punch with my border punch the top edge, and I'm just gluing it in to the center section by putting glue on the left side, the right side, and just across the bottom. This creates a nice tuck spot for extra photo mats, a tag that you might want to create, whatever you want to decorate yours with. I will also add pattern paper to the bottom of the pocket. I don't show that in the video, but I will show it in the finished photos. So I added some of the stickers. Remember, we're going to decorate with stickers or cut aparts to keep it flat. Then for the other full-size pages in the book, I cut two artisan ivory cardstock photo mats 5 inches tall by 3.5 inches wide, and I'm just gluing these into the center, and then I will also add some stickers and other decoration to these. I'm not going to be doing this on the camera for the video, but I will show you at the end how I decorated the cover of my album and how I added the stickers and cut aparts and different things. I will show you what it looks like after I finish them. I'm not going to do the process of the decorating, but I'm going to show you what I did as a finished product. So I want to thank you very much for watching my video. I hope that you will create your own using your favorite Graphic 45 paper collection, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.